Hey, what's up, guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, guys, I want to talk about. Honestly, I'm gonna just get into what I want to talk about. I don't know how I want to word it exactly as far as the title. I guess I'll come up with the title after this video is done and I go back and look at it. But I want to address something that I think is very important. Okay, guys. And I think the father. I know the father put it on my heart to get at this particular point, right? So this particular point within this video that I'm about to make. So, um, guys, something happened and it was so like kind of subtle and unsure, if that makes sense. But I was pretty sure of it, and so whether this is what happened or whether it was just something that happened and it gave me an idea, okay, and something that I felt like I needed to speak on, and that whether it was a situation or not based off of a stimulus situation, what brought it about to me, this is something that's relative anyway, okay? So, alright, guys, I'm aware that I do these videos. My channel is growing somewhat slowly right now, but surely, and it is growing, and it's getting to a point where the internet of things, it may not be very significant, but when you look at my subscribers and many of my view counts, it's a significant amount of numbers. If, for example, if you got 3 or 4 people that's listening to what you're saying, like really actually listening to what you're saying and considering it, that's significant. Okay. Now we come into this world of likes. We come into this world of Facebook, YouTube, where you see these numbers and it looks insignificant. But what I will say is this: if you threw a house party, right, and let's say in your house you have a 2 or 3 bedroom house, right, and you had 100 people packed, you had 100 people in that house, that'll pack that house out. And then let's just say you just start talking in front of all those people, and they were all listening. You know, you would look at that like, damn, this is quite a number of people listening to what I'm saying. But when you look at it on like YouTube or something, you see 100 views, right? Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, that ain't, but let's just think, like, if that's legitimately 100 people looking at that video and taking in consideration what you're saying, okay? It's not insignificant. Alright, guys? And so, to stay on point, but for one, that's the reason why everybody, if you feel like you have anything to share, if it's just yourself, you understand everybody's not going to agree with you. Everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's not going to, some people, whether they have a legitimate reason or not, some people just not going to like you. Everybody not going to, whatever. But the thing is, there will be somebody out there, okay, that agrees with what you're saying. If it's only one other person, or not necessarily agree with what you're saying, but can respect what you're saying, can understand what you're saying. They don't, you don't have to agree with everybody, okay? But you can be of some assistance and some, even if it's just a matter of entertainment or anything, or stimuli for people, okay? And so, to what I want to talk about though specifically is like, all right, so guys, I was when I reflect on myself as an athlete. Now the reason I gotta do this, the reason I'm using this as or why I'm approaching things from this angle is because there's a lot of people, especially in my hometown or something, like maybe you know me since I was a little kid or something like that, or when I was a little kid and things like that. And so what you identify me with is like whatever you can significantly identify me with at that point. So let's just use athletics, okay? Look, guys, I was a I was a okay when it comes to football. I was a okay quarterback when it comes to like numbers and statistics and wins and losses and things like that. When it comes to talent, I was an elite quarterback. Okay. Did my talent did my numbers and wins and things like that always reflect the talent that I had? No. Okay. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I was probably the most talented quarterback of my time. Like, let's just say in two or 3 years where where I was playing quarterback. Like I was probably the most talented quarterback of my time. Did I have the most success? No. Did I have the least success? No. I fell somewhere probably in the upper middle. You know. So and there's different reasons for that, but it's a difference between talent and ability, and then just like what you actually do. Cause like for example, uh, you have quarterbacks that played in the league. So for example, would you say that Trent Dilfer was more successful than or more talented, or a better quarterback, or more able than Cordell Stewart, or I don't know if he won a Super Bowl, or trying to think of somebody. I don't know if Randall Cunningham won a Super Bowl. Not trying to like, Dan Marino. Shit, Dan Marino. Excuse my French. Dan Marino didn't win a Super Bowl. Okay. Trent Dilfer did, but would you say like he was a better, like he had more ability and more talent than Dan Marino? No. So and especially early on, like what I would say about myself is that um why especially looking back on, how the younger you are, sometimes you're more insecure and things like that, but looking back on it, you know sometimes I be think I look at some of the things that I did, and I be like, wow, I can't even believe I did that at that point, knowing my mind frame back then. Like, so with that said, like, if I had the maturity and the mind frame and things like that, sometimes people are late bloomers in different regards. So, like, physically, maybe I just had something that other people didn't have. Like, I don't care. Like, you might have had someone who won more games or something than me, but I guarantee you there probably wasn't a quarterback in my time, you know, who could throw a ball farther than me or harder than me. That was just something that can't be taught or can't be worked on. How many guys you know on your football team? They may have been stronger than you in the weight room. You may be stronger in different regards, but you can't throw a football like that's a talent. So, with that said, um, you know, that's that. Like, you know what I mean? But and that's what it was. But I don't think my mind necessarily. I was just still just too immature. I was a late bloomer, and I was always a smart kid. But what I'm saying is, like, as far as realizing, like, trying to bring my mind frame into the space of where probably everybody else was at, if that makes sense. I was a late bloomer in that regards. Um, so but it didn't take away from my intangibles. And what I mean by intangibles is things that you can't teach, things that can't be seen. So, for example, somebody can have a mind, they can be very teachable, they can follow rules and things like that, and still kind of carry things out. That's like what a Trent Dilfer was, for example. Just go out here and do this, and don't lose the game. We're not asking you to do nothing spectacular because we know you can't do nothing spectacular. But don't just don't go out here and lose the game. Like, don't do nothing. Don't try to do nothing too off the wall or whatever. Um, and so with that said, like, um, I just like I said, if I had a certain type of mind frame, okay, at that time when I was just a kid, then then perhaps you be looking at me right now winning Super Bowls in the NFL if I match the physical, just the raw physical, intangible things with the coming around to tangible, things, if that makes sense. Um, so that's just a testimony to that, guys. And so the point I'm trying to make is like, don't, because I'm not going to get too far into what I'm talking about specifically, but I think you have people. I'm just put it this way. I think you got people trying to use any type of failures or things of that in the past to try to override what's going on in the future. Okay, and then not to mention only what was wrong. So not going to talk about, because with that said, even in my earlier days, I've always been extremely successful, even with sports. Even when I ain't have the mind that I might have today, if that makes sense, or the maturity that I have today, just off of raw ability and intangibles, I've always been successful. So while I'm not going to try to make this a boasting video, I've always been successful. I've had failures, but when you're actually doing things, like, you're going to have a certain amount of failures. But I have a whole lot of successes, okay? I've been a champion a lot, okay? I'll put it that way. I've been literally a champion a lot in many different facets and many different things, okay? So we're not gonna make this video like that type of video. So with that said, to try to point out like, oh, I remember you lost this game. What about when I won this game, right? You know what I mean? Or whatever, or this championship for that matter. Like, I'm not trying to, like, see, it's the thing, like, I'm not trying to take it there. The point I'm trying to make is, don't let people try to sway you, like, on your, perception of people by them only trying to, with their agenda, trying to bring up, maybe some failures, as opposed to pointing out all the successes that you've had. Okay? So, and like I said, in everything, I've ran. I didn't even. This is the thing. Okay, I've ran track. I've got success in road running. Okay, I've got championships in road running. I got championships in track. I got championships in boxing. I got championships in football. I got championships in basketball. All these things, and then with all these things, I played a significant role. Like, not just being some guy who might have been on the basketball team. You've been the last guy on the bench, and the team was good, and you won a championship. No, like, all right. So keep that in mind, guys. Always be positive. Try to look for the positive in people, the good in people, not try to make people look bad and look for the failures in people. Okay. All right, guys. Peace.